Everyone, let's talk about, is Bitcoin a good investment still, like right now? And when, if ever, will it stop being a good investment? When will it be a bad time to put money in Bitcoin? So, first of all, I think, just my opinion, not tax advice, not legal advice, not accounting advice, not any kind of advice, not financial advice. In my opinion, yes, Bitcoin is a fantastic investment right now at current prices, which are just under $98,000, just under $98,000, up pretty aggressively in the last month. So yes, I still think it's a great investment. And the reason for that is that adoption worldwide is still very early. Very few companies have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. A relatively small number of total people in the world, somewhere between less than 5%, certainly less than 10%, probably less than 5% of the world population owns any Bitcoin at all. And most of those people own a very small percent of their portfolio of assets in Bitcoin. So we're still very early in the adoption, very early in the adoption by corporations, very early in the adoption by nation states, very early in the adoption by individuals, very early in the adoption by everyone, which means the future price of Bitcoin once adoption is much more robust, much more uh, I guess, widely adopted, the price will be much higher. Certainly, some price, I believe, well north of $1 million per coin, which gives you a 10x return, a 1,000% return between now and $1 million per coin. So, will Bitcoin ever not be a good investment? Well, at some point, Bitcoin will transition from being an investment to just a money. So, what is the difference between an investment and a money? Well, in an investment, you expect the price to appreciate as a result of things like improving of the product or service, adoption of the product or service, all of that sort of thing. Eventually, when it comes to money, the when a money is fully adopted worldwide, the thing that makes it go up in value is what's called productivity growth. Productivity growth means that humans in general are about 3% better at making any given thing year upon year on every year. So next year we'll be about 3% better at making cars, making cans of, Campbell soup, making Big Macs, making whatever. Now, the reason the price of all of those things is going is because the currency we pay in is going down. The world is not getting worse at making things, which is why they're getting more expensive. The world is getting better at making things. So we're 3% better at making things every year, but the government prints 7% more US dollars every year. So instead of everything going down in price by 3% a year, which reflects how much better we are getting at making things, instead the prices go up by 4% because you're basically getting robbed 7% every year. The 7% of value you're losing is one, the 4% or so inflation. It's between 4 and 9% most of the time, is inflation in general. Sometimes it's in the double digits in bouts of high inflation for the US dollar, but in general, it's typically in the 4% to 9% range. So you're losing that. You're getting screwed that way. Plus, you don't even realize it, but you're not benefiting from the 3% reduction in prices that would happen just because everybody around the world gets 3% better at making everything as a result of better equipment, better skills, better education, better, global infrastructure, all of that sort of stuff. So you're getting robbed 7%. 4 to 9% of that is showing up in actual inflation data. The other 3% is human productivity growth that you are not benefiting from because the government took it away from you. So the more Bitcoin gets adopted, the closer we get to the point where it will just go up 3% a year. So in a world, and I anticipate this is decades in the future, not like now, not next year, and not even a decade from now, let's call it 2 or 3 decades from now, it takes a long time for humans to adopt things. It takes a long time for humans to adopt things. It just does, especially when it involves major behavior change. Even with something like Facebook, it takes more than 20 years for most of the world to have a Facebook account. That's for free. So it takes 20 years for something that's completely free to get adopted worldwide, like the internet or Facebook account. It takes a lot longer for something to get adopted when you have to put money on the line, which is obviously you do because the nature of money is you got to trade something for it. You got to trade your labor or some other kind of money like the US dollar, the euro, the yen, the yuan, there's got to be the peso, the bolivar, whatever it is kind of money you got. You got to trade that, or you got to trade your labor to get Bitcoin in the first place. So it's the adoption is slower of monetary technologies because it requires you to put time, have skin in the game instead of like a free Facebook account or just surfing the internet for free at an internet cafe or something like that. So anyway, so in the early monetization, the upside you get is the adoption worldwide as everybody after you figures out that Bitcoin is a better money. You get the benefit of that because the global adoption drives the price up. Eventually, everybody gets the benefit of a money that increases in value rather than decreases. So even though the very, very, very last person who will ever adopt Bitcoin in the entire planet, even though that person will not benefit from the appreciation, the price going up as a result of adoption, because they are literally the last person to adopt it, they will benefit from then holding a money that goes up in value by about 3% per year, which is a function of the fact that, the longer they hold that Bitcoin, the better humans get at making the things that they intend to buy, whether that's a car or a house or a Big Mac or a can of Campbell's soup or whatever it is. Humans get better at making stuff. So the longer you hold the money, the cheaper the stuff gets. So that is not the case with the US dollar. The US dollar starts losing value from the very instant you touch it. And the longer you hold it, the more value it loses. The longer you wait to spend it, the more the price of the things you want to buy have gone up. And again, that is a direct result of government money printing. So, um, again, Bitcoin is in my opinion, a great investment right now. It's also a great money, but it's especially a great investment. And over the next somewhere between 10 years and 25 years, it will transition to being mostly an investment for most people to mostly a money for most people. And it will still, at the very end of global adoption, it will still go up 3% per year, which is way better than the current money that loses 4% to 9% per year. So it'll still be way better for everybody. But in 25 years from now, if somebody calls me out of the blue and says, Joel, I heard you're super into Bitcoin. I heard it did really well for you. Should I buy Bitcoin as an investment and plan to get rich? I would say, well, no, because everybody else on the planet has already adopted it. Instead of like 5% of the people right now, which means if you're buying Bitcoin right now, you're ahead of 95% of the world. 25 years from now, you might only be ahead of 5% of the world. Point, I would say, look, yeah, you can go buy Bitcoin. Maybe it's $1 million a coin, maybe 2 million a coin, maybe 3 million a coin. You can go buy Bitcoin 25 years from now. It'll still be a great money, and there will still be a little bit of economic upside as a result of global adoption. But that might mean instead of your money earning purchasing power at 3% a year, maybe it earns purchasing power at 4% a year because you get the 3% human productivity growth plus maybe another percent as a result of global adoption and population growth and things like that. But 25 years from now, Bitcoin is not going to be an amazing rock star investment because everybody's going to be using it already. And just like anything else in the world, um, again, that doesn't mean companies like Coca-Cola or Amazon or Apple or Microsoft or Facebook or Google doesn't or Tesla. Tesla's a much younger company than those others. So let's just say the other companies that are all, 3 or 4 decades old, or in the case of Coca-Cola, like more than 100 years old. That doesn't mean any of those are bad investments. You should just not buy Coca-Cola stock expecting to 10x your money in 10 years. Humans are not going to start drinking Coca-Cola fast enough. And the global adoption of Coca-Cola and the percentage of people who drink Coke products is not going to 10x in the next 10 years. Absolutely, that can happen for Bitcoin. It is not going to happen for Coca-Cola. It probably, maybe it can happen for Amazon. Maybe it probably can't happen for Google. Again, most of the world already uses Google for their search engine, and Google has other products, but most of the world's already using Google. Most of the world's already using YouTube and their other major cash cows that Google owns. So you're probably not going to make 10x your money on Google in the next 10 years. You absolutely still can make 10x your money on Bitcoin. And regardless of what return you get on Bitcoin, I believe it will be better than the return you could have gotten with any other investment. And that's really all you can hope for. Nobody knows what the future holds for any asset you could possibly store your wealth in. If Bitcoin outperforms every other major asset over the next 10 years, like it already did the last 10 years, what matters is that every dollar in Bitcoin ends up better off than every other dollar you could have put in every other thing. And there's really no more you can hope for than that, is that you outperformed every other asset. So I think it's a great time to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still early in the adoption cycle, which means it is a fantastic investment and a fantastic money and currency. Over the next, call it 20 or 30 years, it will transition to being less good as an investment because most of the people who are ever going to adopt Bitcoin will have already adopted it. But again, today that presents like 5% worldwide, so huge amount of upside still there. But over time, that will transition where it will mostly just be a money. As opposed to an investment, it will just be a money and it will be the world's best money. And that will serve the world very well, and everybody who uses it will be better off. But again, that's different than making 10x your money in 10 years, which is, I think, very doable with Bitcoin right now. So, hope all that helps. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.